And speaking of jobs you've had recently, I'd love to talk about your recent work on the We Love NYC campaign. Specifically, how were those values and traits about New York that you just mentioned that you love, how were those incorporated into your work on that specific campaign?
We Love New York City really was born out of the work that we ended up doing for New York City Next, in the sense that the Partnership for New York, which really is the sponsor of the We Love New York City campaign, found us as we were doing the New York City Next project. And I think for them, it seemed like this idea of us being able to create work that connected emotionally, and the fact that we were scrappy New Yorkers who just did things that wasn't really any of our day job. I think they responded to the grassroots nature of what we had initiated. And I was at Nextdoor when Kathy Wild, who runs the partnership, came to me and asked me to go to a meeting with her, with one of her members. And they were suggesting to her that really the partnership needed to lead an effort to help bring back optimism and civic energy to New York City. And she said, "Oh, meet Maryam." And really that's sort of how the next phase came to be. And like I said, for me, when I went to Nextdoor, I knew it wasn't a forever job. And I knew that, I was there to help take the company public. And on the other side of that, this opportunity showed up. And it was really a moment to serve in an even bigger way than sort of New York City Next, which was my side hustle. And again, I did not do this by myself. There was a core group of people, an amazing creative agency founders, an amazing digital agency, and so many others, frankly, who along the way helped us imagine how we might be able to have some sort of an impact on New York City, which, again, is big. And this time even bigger because the partnership really was behind this. But again, no taxpayer dollars, a very small amount of cash, sort of a scrappy idea of reminding New Yorkers why we love the city. And, I think one of the things I also think is interesting is I Love New York, which is an amazing campaign, was really born by Mary Wells, who was head of Wells, Rich and Green, an ad agency, and Milton Glaser, who designed the mark. And so they did this at a time where New York was having a difficult time. It was really a tourism campaign at that time to try and get people to come to New York. For us, this was a campaign aimed at New Yorkers. We believe that if you make the people who are here and who commute here and live here feel better, it'll emanate out. So we wanted to take that mark and actually make it for New York City, not for New York. And we really believe it's a moment for we and not me or I. And then taking the heart and playing with it and animating it for the world that's much more 3D than it was when Mary Wells and Milton Glaser was doing the work was a really deliberate decision. Now, any effort where you touch any brand, particularly one as revered as the I Love New York mark, it's not for the faint of heart. And even though that mark is still here and it's quite alive, I think you have to be willing to stay strong even when, not everybody loves it, which I've never done anything around brands that everybody loves. But what was amazing is in the first 24 hours, we got the reach of 2 Super Bowls, partly because of all the conversation that was generated from the launch, partly from the incredible donations of in-kind media that were given to us for the campaign. But it shows you how much people care about New York, because this conversation wasn't even just in New York, it went global. And really, it was meant to just get the conversation going. We're now focused on trying to drive to civic action. So just this week, we launched a project with Wicked, which turns 20. Wicked is an amazing musical that was, that obviously is here on Broadway and when it's not touring, and the Parks Department. So you can go green with Wicked and the Parks Department and do a park cleanup, right? So finding ways to bring fun to the idea of giving back so that everybody can find a different way to come in. Shortly, we're going to be announcing something with the MTA. We just did something with the sports leagues, all of which are headquartered here, where a couple of the sports legends came to Saturday Night Lights event where the kids were playing. There's just lots of different ways to help your city. And so, I say, like the mark, don't like the mark. It doesn't matter. Just do something. This is a moment where I think we all need to be doing something, whether we live in Cloverdale or in Chicago or in New York.